happened when Jimin and Jungkook were alone that night. It wasn't like any other night. The sky looked grayer than usual, and the cold air seemed to hold a secret that had not yet been said. Amid the hustle and bustle, military training, and constant pressure, Jimin and Jungkook are finally alone, in a night that will be a turning point in their relationship. And no one planned that meeting. Jimin just wanted to get out for a while to get some fresh air. There were too many thoughts piled up in his head about the future, about the distance that began to be felt between them, and about things that did not have time to say. He stepped into the small garden behind the military barracks. Quiet. Only the sound of his steps was heard on the gravel road. Soon, Jungkook appeared from the opposite direction. It was as if the world brought them together when they were both too tired to dodge. Their gazes met in silence. There was no greeting, only silence hanging. Jungkook sat next to Jimin on an old wooden bench that had been there for a long time. They didn't talk for a long time, but both knew their silence wasn't a sign of awkwardness. It was because each was mustering the strength to open a wound that had been neatly closed. Jimin looked down, looking at his own hands, while Jungkook occasionally stared at the night sky covered with clouds. "Why have we come this far?" Jimin asked slowly. His voice was almost inaudible. Jungkook nodded slowly. He knew Jimin wasn't talking about place or time. He spoke of their hearts beginning to be out of tune. "I hurt you, didn't I?" Jungkook asked, his voice low and sincere. Jimin did not answer directly. His eyes began to glaze over. "Not you," he said at last, "but the circumstances. But I still hope you know. I'm not okay." Jungkook took a deep breath. "I'm not okay either." And for the first time in a long time, they opened all. About feeling lonely despite being in a crowd. About the pressure of being part of a BTS that now has to undergo the military, separated from the world that used to make them feel alive. And about the sense of loss towards each other. When Jimin finally couldn't hold back his tears, Jungkook did only one thing: hug him. Not a romantic hug, not even a polite hug, but a hug that comes from a feeling that is too long buried. A hug from a brother, a friend, someone who knows the hurt because he has felt it too. Jimin picked up the slack. His body trembled, but slowly calmed down in Jungkook's arms. The evening did not end with a big promise. There is no forever, no I will always be. But they understand each other that the evening is enough to be early. Early to return. Early to repair. When they finally left, the two didn't talk much. But their steps are lighter. And their hearts, once distant from each other, now draw near. Not just a conversation, but a confession. Not just a hug, but healing. And most importantly, it's not just a coincidence. It's a second chance. Because sometimes, the quietest night becomes the night that unites two hearts that are almost divided. After a night of honesty, Jimin and Jungkook slowly rediscover the direction they had lost. Although not all wounds heal instantly, they now walk side by side with a much deeper understanding than before. They know that not all problems can be solved with one meeting, but that night has opened a gap of hope, that everything that is cracked can still be put back together. Tomorrow there will be no big announcement. No one knows the details of what they talked about that night. But small changes are beginning to be seen. Jimin, who usually seemed silent and closed, began to open up again to the other members. His laughter slowly returned, though still wrapped in caution. Meanwhile, Jungkook, who had been keeping his emotions tight, began to show his soft side again, especially when he was near Jimin. The other members whispered, wondering, but no one forced them to tell the story. Even Taeyum, who was usually ignorant, just looked at them with a faint smile, as if knowing the night was not to be told, but to be cherished. A few weeks after the events of that night, Jimin was found writing something alone in the break room. The paper looked like a letter, but he hurriedly hid it when someone entered. Jungkook saw her accidentally, but didn't ask anything. He just smiled and said, "If it's for me, I'll read it later." Jimin just laughed quietly. "Maybe it's for you, but more precisely, to the old version of myself. The letter may never arrive." But the fact that Jimin wrote it shows that the wound he saved is slowly being treated. Since that night, whenever the two were in the same room, whether in training, eating together, or even while sitting quietly at the other end of the room. They didn't need to talk much. Their gazes were enough to say, "I know you're here." And that's enough. Fans who saw snippets of their interactions via official military photos or videos even speculated that there was a deeper emotional signal between them. Many have highlighted how Jimin is now paying more attention to Jungkook on the sly, and how Jungkook seems more protective than usual, but for them, it's not imaging. It's part of the healing process. They know they will never go back to the way they were before. The past remains the past, and the wounds once created will always be part of their story. But they're now stepping in with a new understanding about the importance of talking, about accepting each other's shortcomings, and about not letting a small distance turn into a big abyss. For the army who always wondered, are Jimin and Jungkook still as close as they used to be? The answer is not simply yes or no. The answer is, they are more mature now. They understand each other better now. And that night, when there were only the two of them under a silent sky, they promised each other, without words, not to let a small mistake erase the great story they had written together from the beginning. Because sometimes, the deepest love is not about hugging in front of the camera or laughing together on stage. It's about two people who can sit still, heal each other's wounds, and still choose each other at the end of the day. And that night was the night when Jimin and Jungkook, in silence, chose not to leave each other. That night may be over, but his shadow still lingered in the hearts of both. After that moment of honesty and a healing embrace, Jimin and Jungkook slowly paved the way to understanding each other more deeply without having to go back to the painful past. They are no longer the same as they once were, and that's precisely why their relationship is stronger than ever. The days passed, and although military duty continued as usual, there was a new calm that came between them. When the two pass each other, there is no need for a big smile or sweet words. Just a small nod or a glance at the eyes is enough to convey everything. In silence, they reinforce each other. Jimin, who used to choose to avoid, now began to be able to look into Jungkook's eyes without burden. And Jungkook, who used to be confused about what to do, now knows. What Jimin needs is not a solution, but a sincere presence. A few days later, they shared a moment together. This time in the empty dining room, there was only the dim light of a lamp and the sound of a wall clock ticking quietly. "I was afraid of losing you," Jungkook said suddenly. Jimin nodded. His eyes are soft, but full of meaning. "We never really lost, Kook. We just forgot how to listen to each other." Both smiled a little. There is no explicit apology, because that night has become their most real form of apology, with the courage to be present, to hear and to accept. For some people, it was just an ordinary night. But for Jimin and Jungkook, it's the new foundation of everything they're going to rebuild. They begin to create small memories every day, a short laugh at a workout, small talk before bed, or even just a warm cup of coffee divided in the morning. Nothing dramatic. But everything is sincere, and being sincere is the most powerful thing two people who have been on the verge of breaking up can have. Some fans noticed that the songs Jungkook wrote or sang after that time felt more emotional, as if he poured a sense that could not be spoken in the form of a melody. One of the songs even made Jimin cry secretly during rehearsals. Not out of sadness, but out of relief that Jungkook understood it in a way that not everyone can. There's a verse in that song that feels so personal. "Even when you're not talking, I still hear your voice in my heartbeat." No need for clarification. Everyone who knows them knows. It was about that night. The story of Jimin and Jungkook is not a story that can be closed with one paragraph. They are not a soap opera couple who need a happy ending in one episode. They are two human beings who are growing, hurting, healing, and loving in their own way. That night, when there were only them and the sky was overcast, was a new beginning.